Hello and welcome back to the Skift Travel Podcast, the lifestyle hotel. It's fun, it's chic, it's beloved by locals and tourists alike. Naturally, it also commands a great room rate, but what exactly is it? Well, the definition is hard to pin down precisely, but to paraphrase the Supreme Court, we know it when we see it. And in my mind, the king of lifestyle hotels is the Standard in New York City. But the original meatpacking hotel has expanded into a brand, and there are now 13 Standard properties across the world with more on the way. In 2024, Hyatt bought the Standard International, that's the parent company, for 21 hotels, including the Standard brand and sister hotels like those under the Bunkhouse brand, in a deal that could be worth up to $335 million. Now, the Standard International's former CEO, Amar Lalvani, has joined Hyatt as Executive Vice President and Creative Director of Lifestyle, and we are lucky enough to have just the man joining us on the pod today. Amar, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And hi, Seth. How are you doing?
Hey, Sarah. Hey, Amar. I'm really excited for this one. I'm happy to be here. Very happy to be here today.
Great.
All right. So a quick reminder before we get into it, before we get started, please send any questions or comments that you have to podcasts@skift.com. And please don't forget to follow or subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening or watching. And if you're enjoying the show, please rate us 5 stars and leave us a positive review. It helps so much to spread the word about the Skift Travel Podcast. So first off, Seth, have you ever stayed at the Standard?
I've never stayed, but I spent a lot of time there in my 20s. I think it's a great property, and I have a lot of fond memories. Specifically, the meatpacking one. Not some of these. We'll talk about not some of these new ones, but the original.
So, Amar, my favorite, just like again, I guess I was a little older than in my 20s, but the kind of Paradise Lost, like heaven and hell elevator thing that's in the Standard in the meatpacking is one of my absolute favorite hotel experiences I think that I've ever had. That and the bathrooms up in the bar.
Well, that's amazing. You have to come back and visit.
Is it still there?
It's absolutely still there. In fact, we refreshed it. It's by an artist and a friend named Marco Brambilla. And I think about 2 years ago, he refreshed it. So you'll see some new imagery in there and some new video clips, all still heaven to hell, but refreshed for the next phase of our life.
Oh, I love it. I'm definitely going to have to come back.
I think it's such an iconic hotel. I mean, and there's the beer garden, the bottom. There's the rooftop up top. There's, of course, the High Line. There's the nudity, where those you had some guests that were showing off for the High Line customers. I mean, it's just it's a really cool property. So
thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually not the original. That was the third. Oh. That was the fourth Standard that existed. The first one was in Hollywood, way back in the day.
Oh, really?
Before your guys' time. 25 years ago, the first Standard opened on the Sunset Strip in Hollywood.
Wow. So wait, correct me. Give me the deep lore on Standard. I always assumed the meatpacking one was the original.
No, a lot of people think that. I would say that's the one that really put it on the map on a global way. But to be fair, I did not found the company. It was founded by a guy named Andre Pelage, who many of you may know. And he started the Standard brand 25 years ago on the Sunset Strip. And the logo was upside down, as you probably well know, and for a reason. It was one of the first pioneering boutique lifestyle design, whatever you want to call it, hospitality concepts. And it started taking unloved real estate, things that people didn't know what to do with, and infusing it with character, infusing it with culture. And that was the basis of where Standard started. It went from there, from Hollywood to downtown LA, which was an old office building called the Superior Oil Building. Then it went to Miami, which is a beloved property on Belle Isle and the Venetian Causeway. And then the fourth one is the Standard High Line. That was the first Standard to be purpose-built as a Standard. And as everything you know about it, from the beer garden up to the Boom Boom Room, really put the brand on the map.
I didn't know that's what it was called.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
seems appropriate.
It's an incredible hotel. It's probably among the best examples of what they term lifestyle hotels now. It's an incredible property that put the meatpacking district on the map, put the Standard on the map. At the peak, I think 2015, that hotel by itself did about $100 million of revenue.
Wow.
On 338 rooms with 5, 6, 7 F&B venues. So it was really a benchmark of what this concept's all about.
Yeah, and I do. By the way, for our hotels, I think of the F&B integration on that hotel as really. I don't know if we could call it revolutionary, but really did set the standard for like leading with lobby space, with F&B space, with multiple bars, all that stuff that seems obvious today. I feel
For
like that
sure,
was
for sure. No, it's a good point. And with the one thing we've taken pride in with Standard is we've always run all the F&B ourselves. So it's very tightly integrated with the hotel, how it works, how the operations work, it's really, really difficult. It's not easy to do that. But the high low between the beer garden and the people that go there, to experiencing what happens with the Met Gala after party at the top of the Standard, to the nightclub at Le Bain, it's an incredible property with a mix of experiences, and I think set the standard for a lot of people.
set the standard. There you go.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
I was going to say, though, back in 2021, we ran a profile. Skift.com ran a profile standard, and the headline was Standard Hotels Thumbs Nose at Bigger is Better on Brand Growth. That was the title. I think we had a reporter interview you. You've now sold to Hyatt.
Yeah.
How do you like the big brand life? Is it nice?
It's look, we're so supported. Hyatt's been a great. Let me tell you how we got here and why we got here. I think that helps set the tone. So we've been blessed to be able to have a lot of demand for what Standard is, a lot of places to go, a lot of cities we want to enter, a lot of developers and owners that want to do Standards in their hometowns. And frankly, we just outgrew our infrastructure. And opening stuff around the world is really hard. We opened a Standard X in Melbourne. We opened a Standard in Bangkok and in the Maldives and Ibiza, all over the place. But frankly, we didn't have the infrastructure to keep growing that way. We didn't want to stop. We wanted to keep going. So the deal with Hyatt allowed us to keep doing what we're doing. They have an enormous amount of respect for what we do and how we do it. We've created a whole lifestyle division out of it. So we were at the end of our ability to grow on our own, and we needed a great partner with global infrastructure, global scale, and a leadership team that respected what we did. So that's how we got here.
So your official title is, correct me if I'm wrong, President and Creative Director, Lifestyle. Now, I think a lot of times in business, especially in journalism, we go on, we talk about all these things, we have words for things, and sometimes it's like, what does that even mean, right? So what does Creative Director Lifestyle mean to you?
I'm still trying to figure it out. But
there you go. Yeah.
So I think let's break it down. Lifestyle is definitely an overused and ambiguous word in the business. And I like what you said. You know it when you see it, and that's the fact. The whole thing started as what was the first term, boutique hotels. And the origination of that word was Steve Rubell, who was Ian Schrager's partner in business, tried to explain it to the investors what a boutique hotel was. He made up that term, said, the department stores uptown? You know the department stores and the boutiques? That's the difference. Think of a big box hotel as a department store. Think of this as a boutique. So that's where it started. Then they started to call them design hotels because people like Ian Schrager and Andre Balazs and the like started taking design seriously in hotels. And believe it or not, that was a revolutionary concept. Wow, design should be taken seriously in hotels. So from boutique hotels to design hotels, this whole idea about lifestyle hotels. What it means to me is that the idea of going beyond a room night stay, beyond normal experiences, immersing guests in all kinds of aspects of what hospitality can be about, thinking bigger, thinking broader, not just about the functionality of a hotel, but the experience of the hotel. That whole idea is being used by everybody now, but that is the genesis of this. The first time hotels were thought of as much more than just a room night stay, and all the things that hotels could actually be, and what place they could live in people's lives and in the lives of the communities and the cities that they're in.
So that's the origin story. Now you're going to take lifestyle forward with Hyatt. What do you see as like the for the 2020s and beyond? I mean, we're halfway through the 2020s. The 2030 and beyond, what is a modern lifestyle hotel? What does that mean to be a modern lifestyle hotel or a modern Hyatt lifestyle hotel today?
It's a great question because, guests and consumers have come a long way. I remember back when I started in this business, I was just at the IHIF conference in Berlin. I think you might have had some people over there. And I remembered when I was on stage with Mark, the first time I went to that conference was 20 years ago. I'm dating myself. And at that time, I was responsible for all the development for W hotels in the Europe, Africa, Middle East region. And no one knew what I was talking about. What is this silly thing called W? And literally, I was trying to convince people, oh, this is what it is. It has music. It's got culture. So 20 years on, people know what it is. People have very high expectations. Big companies are launching brands left and right. So what does it mean today? It means still finding the points of depth, differentiation, and things that we can do better than everybody else, understanding and being ahead of the curve on what people like, taking a view and having a team that's totally steeped in the things that we care about so that we can deliver for our guests. And there's new interpretations of that too. We launched a new brand this year, I guess last year now, called the Manor, which is in Soho. It's actually, ironically, the original 60 Thompson Hotel is now the Manor Hotel. And that's a whole new type of lifestyle hospitality. So we still think there's a place for innovation and creativity, but the standards are higher, and we got to get more, we got better and better at what we do.
I was going to say, so if, kind of that cool factor or design was lifestyle, maybe in the recent past, what are your consumers telling you or showing you they want now?
So the interesting thing is, the way I really think about it is, I don't say we don't listen to consumers, but people don't really know what they want until they see it and experience it.
Absolutely.
So I've been extraordinarily lucky in my career to just really keep creating things and doing things that I really like. Not just based on a whim, but based on the travels around the world I've been lucky enough to have, the experiences that I've had, and create things that I think other people will like. And so far, so good. I think the Manor is an interesting example. We actually opened a hotel in New York City with no TVs in the rooms. So, and the reason is the room design looks more beautiful. We want people to be out and about. We want people to have experiences in their rooms with other people. We want them to enjoy. We want them to understand the beauty of what New York City is about and what the hotel's all about. Well, so we won't disappoint people. If they want a TV, we can bring one up to you. But if you went and asked people, do you want a TV in your room? 99% would say yes, but they don't know necessarily the alternative, what it feels like to be cocooned in a room without a TV. It's a small example, but it's a powerful one. In that hotel as well, we set some rules. There are no kids allowed in the public areas. So that's an interesting thing you wouldn't necessarily get from a survey of what people want. So I think we try to be bold in what we do. We try to create new experiences, and hopefully people like them.
I have children. I would want that.
Yeah,
I know. I know that. I know that about myself. So do you think that lifestyle and luxury have always gone kind of hand in hand, or at least that's what I think of when I think of lifestyle hotels? So do you think that this modern luxury traveler, do you think that they always want luxury, or what? I don't know. What else do you think they will be looking for?
I think some of the terms we use in our industry are more inward looking in their industry terms, as opposed to terms that the guests really care about. I take the extreme version of that as upper mid-scale, upper upscale. What are
Upper upscale is my least favorite of every jargon word I think of. It's meaningless.
To me, exactly. To me, it's an outcome and an output of what a rate happens to be, rather than a product differentiation for a guest. I think the same is true for 3-star versus 4-star. I've been in this industry for 25 years. I still don't know what those terms mean. So to your point, I don't think about those terms as definitional and important to guests. I think about every single property being what the property is supposed to be for that moment in time and for that place. So even take an example of the standard Highline, which you guys talked about. The beer garden is very different than the Boom Boom Room. That doesn't mean that you only go to one or the other. If you want to watch a game and you want to have a beer, you go down there and have a sausage in our beer garden. If you're having a night out and you want a martini upstairs, so even within one building, you can have something that looks like it's luxury on the top and something that's not on the bottom, but have a customer that spans. We used to have a hotel, out in Marfa, Texas, which had teepees, yurts, tents. That is still appealing to a luxury traveler. So this idea of lifestyle means you're going to meet them where they are, what they want at that moment in time, which doesn't have to be categorized in a certain way, in a very prescriptive fashion. So it's not an easy answer, but I think it tells you that we have to get away from the industry terms and get to what people are actually doing and what people are actually enjoying.
And so, just to keep, I guess, pushing you on that in terms of what people are actually doing and enjoying, what about the younger generations, right? I mean, we're talking the history of the Standard, and clearly the Standard Highline made an impression on both Sarah and myself. We really remember it. What are you doing so that the 20-year-olds of today are saying, oh, that was an incredible experience? Like, what is the lesson that you're hearing there in terms of what they want?
What we're seeing, it's a good question. What we're seeing is that the fundamentals still hold true. People still want to go out. They want to have a good time. They're still doing those things. They're doing things a little bit differently, which frankly, we're still adjusting to. I think the move which we're adjusting to, I think, well, but it's still challenging to understand that. We don't go out and do surveys and try to figure it out. We're watching the data. We're watching how people interact. I think there's a trend toward drinking less. There's no question about that. We're seeing that in the numbers across the board. I think there's a serious trend toward wellness stuff. And I say that whether it's tech wellness and tech remedies and how people take care of themselves, there's a trend toward, earlier mornings and not as much later nights. So having said that, we're not evolving everything we do. I think almost every list we have now at a restaurant has a really substantive non-alcoholic section. I think that's very important. I think that matters. But at the same time, the principles still hold true. It's got to be well done. It's got to be well crafted. It's got to be well articulated. So we're watching it. We're learning. We're getting better and better about all those elements.
Do you think people, and this is just because my Instagram feed seems to be overrun right now with, I don't know, the little maybe drops or things that you like spike your drinks with.
Like
yeah, exactly. Do you think people are doing that and bringing it in and putting it in their drinks? Is it like, I'm trying to figure out, like, is Gen Z are they really so healthy? Like, are they really not like, I don't know. Just answer me that. I'm very curious.
I think they are for sure. I don't think it's just Gen Z. I'll give you my tip for when I'm not drinking on a night.
Yeah.
You get a little thing of bitters and put them into the club soda.
Yeah.
So it's not just Gen Z. It's people taking a more holistic view of their life, wanting to still go have. There's this whole thing I read about called Zebra. I don't know if you have Zebra drinking, which is you alternate one alcoholic drink, one non-alcoholic drink. So people are doing things like that.
Oh, I've been doing that for 20 years. That's not new.
I thought that was just called sales. I thought that was just how you sell, how you take a client out.
So people are doing that stuff. I think there's the movement toward, gummies and THC and mushrooms and microdosing. It's all real. Yeah. It's all very real. But
you guys can't sell that yet, right?
No, we can't. I think, we have some places you can do CBD, places you can do other things. But, we're not chasing this stuff. We're learning from it. We're adapting. But the fundamentals still hold true. People still want to have a good time. People still want great design spaces. People want to commune with each other. What they happen to be ingesting may be slightly different, but the principles of what they want to do, and especially, we're only going to be good at what we're best at. We're really good at bringing people together. We're really good at having social spaces. We're really good at having design that no one's seen before. We're good at bringing in collaborators and creators and music, and all those things still hold. So around the edges, things are going to change and things are going to evolve. They always do. But I think that if we stick true to our principles, we're not chasing the next thing that people might be researching.
One of the things you were saying earlier was about hotels and properties that feel true to their locations. And a lot of the stuff we talked about has been in the US so far. I was going through the Standard website. You have like 5 hotels in Southeast Asia. It might be the biggest concentration outside of America. You've got like 2 and a couple in Bangkok, like 2, right? There's an X in Bangkok and a regular in Bangkok. So we have an Asia forum coming up for Skift. What got you excited about Southeast Asia? Why is there a Singapore, a Bangkok, 2 Bangkoks, multiple Thailands? Why are you guys in that location?
It's a great question. It's a great markets, but it is happenstance and kind of strategic as well. So our last majority investor before Hyatt was a company called Sensiri, and they are the biggest property developer in Thailand. To give them a lot of credit for investing in our company and believing in us. That was a relationship I had for the last 20 years, 25 years when I was with Starwood Capital. So part of it was they invested in us and had a great base there of connections, of contacts, of capital. And so they helped us enter that market. I had a really good understanding of that market, having lived in Thailand for a few years. So I had some relationships and connections as well. And it became our jumping off point. And to be honest with you, Southeast Asia is a little bit easier to do business in than China or Japan. Language-wise, it's more connected, it's easier English. So combination of our majority investor, my experience there, and the ease of doing business made it a great entry point. And, it goes between Paris and Bangkok every year, who has the most international tourists, which is a big deal. So Bangkok's a big jumping off point. The Thai contingent has always been fans of what we do. And it was just so opportunistic, happenstance, personal interest, and a great point to jump off to the rest of the world.
And are your guests mostly locals, or are you getting Americans flying all the way to Thailand, White Lotus style?
Total combination. I mean, Bangkok's an amazing cosmopolitan city. Our standard there is in the tallest building in Thailand, which is incredible. And so it's really that, like the High Line. So I'll step back a minute. The High Line put us on the map globally, but New York is an international city, but it's not the most international city. And so as we went to our first international hotel, our first hotel outside America, we did it in London. We opened the Standard London just before COVID. It's probably the last big party before the shutdown, the opening party. And that was in 2019. And that was a property that we took an enormous amount of care doing. It took us 5 years to build that property in an old town council building in Camden. Came out really well. And that was a jumping off point for us to be able to do the Standard in Ibiza, the Standard in Brussels, which is opening in 2 weeks from now, a couple of weeks from now, the Standard in Lisbon with residences, which opens next year. And then we wanted a jumping off point and an iconic sort of foundational flagship property in Asia. And that's what we did the Standard in Bangkok. And it's an incredible building, really, really difficult project to design during COVID, but it came out really well. Put a Mexican restaurant on the rooftop with a chef from Guadalajara. Surprised everybody by doing that. And then we jumped off from there and did a beautiful resort in Hua Hin, which Sansiri was the developer on. And that's like the Hamptons of Bangkok, came out gorgeous. That allowed us to go into Singapore, which we just did, et cetera. So we've kind of had this, I won't call it hub and spoke, but had this strategy of doing a flagship quality hotel in a primary market in the region that allows us to build off from there. So that's kind of this business strategy behind where we've gone.
So we've talked a lot about lots of pretty beautiful things, but now I want to talk about political angst. Let's go from one extreme right to the other. So we've all been watching the news. I'm curious what you think of, I don't even know what to call it, the geopolitical environment right now, whether that's economic with tariffs and all of that sort of thing, or just the vibe, I suppose, with international travel. Do you think that the luxury traveler is just going to this is just going to be a big shrug for them and it will just carry on as normal? Or do you think that, high-end travel is going to get hit just like we're seeing kind of lower mid-scale travel getting hit?
Well, I'll tell you one thing from a mindset and mentality perspective. I think anybody in this business, if we got through COVID, we can get through anything. Like that was so incredibly devastating for us, as you all well know, and as everybody on the line knows, that we really benchmark everything. If we can get through that, we can get through anything. So I really believe that. So in a sense, none of this stuff is scary, and we will figure it out. What I do believe fundamentally is that travel has turned into an essential need for people, not just an optional desire. I really believe that's the case. I think a lot of us feel that way. It's not optional anymore. It's part of your life. So I think that's an important way to think about it. I do think what we were talking about before, the next generation travels a lot more than my generation did, that's for sure. So while there can be disruptions along the way, the secular trends of travel are really good. The fact that it's become an essential need, the fact that the next generation travels a lot more than we did, and that's how they spend their money. So my view is that where people travel to might get impacted based on restrictions or whatever happens. But the fact that they will travel is not debatable anymore. And I think that as it relates to the political situation, we focus on what we do every single day. There's a lot of stuff we can control. There's a lot of stuff we can't control. What we can control is opening great hotels, giving great experiences, and whoever comes through our doors, they're more than welcome.
I was reading about your background, and last time you spent an extended time in Thailand, it was a currency crisis. Yeah. Do you think is there going to be opportunity in this time around? Is there a currency crisis coming? Is there a buying opportunity?
Who knows? There's my view. There's always opportunity, and if you look around, there's opportunity when things are booming because people are leaning into travel and spending more money. There are opportunities on the investment side when things aren't going so well. That's not great for people. But the reality is, we are in the business of doing our best to produce joy for people. We're by nature optimistic. We have to be. It doesn't pay to be anything else. So I don't spend my time really thinking about this stuff. We just keep going every day. The mission in front of us is to build great hotels, do better and better for our guests every day, where we have a great opportunity with Hyatt around the world. And so the neat thing about being with Hyatt is that things ebb and flow, and one country may be affected more than another. When you have a global footprint like they do, 1,500 hotels all around the world, some 70 or 80 countries, whatever the number is, things move around. But the fact that people want to travel, the fact that people want to have good experiences and enjoy themselves, that's universal. And it gives us a lot of comfort knowing that we have such a big network all around the world to keep doing what we do.
All right. Well, I think that will take us into the break, and we will be right back on the other side.
Welcome back to the Skift Travel Podcast. We're continuing our conversation with Amar Lalvani, a creative director for Hyatt. So, Amar, we've been having a lot of really fascinating conversations. One of the things that we touched on the top that I'd love to dig a little deeper into is this idea of wellness. Hyatt has really staked a lot of brand equity and real equity investments into building out a brand of wellness. We were talking about this before a little bit. Do you feel like you've learned anything from Hyatt on how they do wellness that you want to bring into the properties that you're responsible for? Or do you have anything that you're thinking about pushing the envelope where you can experiment and push the envelope on wellness with your background and experience?
For sure. That's a great question. I think, fundamentally what I've learned at Hyatt so far is the culture of care that they have. Like their purpose is really powerful. The caring for people to be their best it's a big deal. And that shines through, I think, in some of their wellness acquisitions of wellness properties. Two brands in particular, I think Miraval and Alila. Miraval has just an unbelievably immersive experience in wellness. If you go to the property out in Texas, it's a remarkable place. And when you go there, you feel transported, you feel transformed, you feel so much better about yourself when you leave than when you got in there. So I think that there's this need to unplug. And going back a little bit to political conversation, the amount of stuff that's happening and coming at you and keeping up with the news and worrying about what's happening in the market and that kind of stress very much leads to the need for self-care and wellness. There's no question about that. So I think there's those immersive type of experiences like a Miraval. I think they're just beautiful, simple places like Alila, which are so delicate and quiet and perfect in their execution. And I think there's something about that stillness and that peace that people need in this world, especially with what's going on. So I think there's a place for that type of wellness, which is more of an integrated, holistic kind of wellness. Then I'm super intrigued by kind of this tech wellness stuff that's going on. And there's a place in New York. I just had an AI massage for the first time, which was like the craziest thing. It's
How
a
was
machine. It was good. I would say it's different. I wouldn't call it a massage. It's more like compression sort of therapy. But it's a machine that's learning about your body as it massages you. So that's wild. That when you think about those kind of things, you think about like NAD plus IV drips. You think about cryotherapy. You think about red light therapy. I think there's a whole tech revolution in wellness that's happening. So it's a big space to talk about, and I think there's a whole clearly the medical part of wellness, which is really understanding on an individualized basis what your body needs at what time. And I think the actual AI revolution and being able to diagnose and do things for you on an individual basis is huge. So it's a huge category. I think no one in hospitality has gotten all of it or really any of it. I think we're just scratching the surface, but I think it's divided up into at least those components and probably many more I don't know about.
I did one of those. I don't know if it was red light. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was hot, and I had to like press the like escape button, like, and have the person come in. I was like, I like started seeing the, like I was going to pass out. Yeah. Like it was a lot. So
yeah, no, I think that stuff's incredible. And I think to the point earlier, there are now ways to work those things into your everyday life. I think that's a big part of what's happening is people having a better view of self-care and what that actually means. Of course, that I didn't even get, there's the spiritual side of wellness too, which I think is bigger and bigger. And that goes to even things like media and podcasting and long form. Like there's so much to how people are consuming good stuff and bad stuff that is changing very, very quickly.
The Skift Travel Podcast, very good for your mental health.
I was just going to say,
everywhere.
I was trying to think of how I could thread that in there. So Amar, I'm curious, what is the most innovative thing that you are working on right now? Like what's the coolest, newest, most kind of like bonkers thing that you think is awesome that you can tell us about?
A lot of the AI stuff that we're looking at has so much. People who don't think this is changing the world don't know what's going on. So it is absolutely phenomenal on the internal business stuff, how to be more efficient, it's not really efficiency, it's how to spend time doing the things that you're most value add doing, how to let our team members and our colleagues spend time taking care of guests and not doing the other things. So I think these AI agents are quite remarkable. And we think about filling out RFPs for sales, RFPs for development opportunities, like all the things that can be done, not necessarily by humans, but by AI, and then edited, augmented, and really spending your time doing value-added things, which makes everybody more productive and a better outcome. So there's that. I think when we think about guest journeys and how you navigate a city, I was in Berlin the other day, and for this conference, I took a long walk, and I had my headphones on, and I was looking at buildings and asking the AI what they were and who was the architect and where am I? What's the walking tour that I should have around the city if I want to go to the record shop, I want to go to this part of town, and it would give you customized itineraries. I think that stuff is absolutely incredible. I think when you think about design and I'm not able to draw things or really be an artist, but if I say, this is what I want it to look like or feel like, or use these references or use these hotels as references, use these designers, and then it actually puts a mood board together or puts a room design together. It's incredible. So I think that to me, almost anything to do with AI will touch some impact of our business and our lives.
And what about, is there anything AI wise you're really excited about from a room design perspective? Like, can we put are you going to start putting is there a way to put AI in rooms, or is that a gimmick, or you're taking the TVs out? Are you going to put AI in?
I haven't quite figured that part out yet. I think that the use of AI I've used so far has been in thinking of how to design rooms and think about rooms, and understand guest insights and reviews. I mean, the research that I can do, this deep research tool that ChatGPT has, I think Google has the same thing. It will scan and look at press and insights from customers around the world, from sites you've never heard of, and takes about 15 minutes, and it'll give you a report that would have taken months before. So I think getting valuable customer data and customer insights from sources that you had no idea about, it's just incredibly powerful. So I use it more as a tool and as a resource rather than a consumer-facing proposition.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's also what we're hearing from a lot of people as well, is that the first use cases are going to be more efficiency focused, and then there's going to flow into the guests. But the guests will become more efficient in how they search for and discover your properties as well, right?
For sure. Look, I think I was happy the other day. I asked ChatGPT what's the coolest hotel in New York, and it said the Standard Highline. I just said it out of the blue. So I was very proud of that GPT. But I think it will largely be for guests and people themselves to figure out how they use it, and then we will figure out how they are using it and how that interacts with the hotel. I'm old enough to go back to when the internet's happening, so the hotels rushed to put keyboards connected to TVs in order so people. That's not what happened. That was hotels trying to get to the head of the curve, and they just spent a bunch of money that didn't make any sense because that's not how it worked. So I think rushing to do things like that probably is a mistake. But understanding how we all use it ourselves, how people use it, and how that will change how they behave, that's what we need to adapt to rather than trying to rush and get ahead. We're not going to be the fastest at figuring out how to implement AI in rooms, but understanding the insights and how people change their behavior, that's really interesting.
We had AI draw Seth and I as Muppets the other day for our our logo for our podcast. That was pretty fun. That. Yeah, that was great.
I had AI draw paintings of my dog by all kinds of different famous artists from history.
So great. So moving on from that, let's talk about loyalty a little bit. It's something that the big brands have done. I mean, it's integral now to how they run their businesses. What do you think? What do you think is working well in hotel loyalty, and what do you think could have been done better?
Okay, what's working? So we never had a loyalty program at Standard because quite honestly, we're never big enough. And what that meant is we had to really work harder and work smarter and really know our guests. And that was our way of getting loyalty, kind of really an old school kind of way. And we were very proud to get to 1 million people in our database who were Standard fans, Standard Bunkhouse fans. And then we had the opportunity to join Hyatt with 54 million World of Hyatt members. Now that's actually super exciting for us, and we're so eager to tap into it. One of the big reasons why is that when we open a new hotel, like a Standard X in Melbourne or Standard in Brussels, we don't have distribution in the feeder markets. We don't have brand knowledge in the feeder markets. So when you have a built-in powerful database like that, that's a big deal for launching and ramping hotels. I would say And from a Hyatt perspective, what really intrigued us about the partnership or acquisition by Hyatt is that Hyatt has more members, 54 million per hotel, roughly 1,500 hotels, than any of the other companies. So what that tells you is you have a guest base that really wants more product, that are loyal to Hyatt, but is looking for more hotels to stay at. So that's really exciting for us because as we grow, we know that the base is there. The other thing about the Hyatt system is that it vastly skews into the luxury and upper and upscale and the higher end categories. And so that's a good thing for us. So we're excited about it. I would say without it, we were hamstrung. People rely on it, people use it. But what I like about the Hyatts is they're already starting to use AI in that front to be able to give recommendations, to be able to get customer insights. So the power of the data is really good. The power of the people and the number of people is really good. And the fact that it's distributed all over the world makes it easier for us to open hotels and ramp them up. So that to us is really exciting.
Do you ever get a little disappointed when it's a good room rate and you get the loyalty redemption instead of the cash rate, though?
It's a pretty good system. I know all the details, but if you're above X percent, you get reimbursed at the rate that you would get that night. So I think the way it lays out is actually really well done for the owners of hotels.
Where do you want to take the loyalty plugin with Standard to go next? Like, is there, I don't know.
Where we want to go is much more granular and much more linking all of those things to individual guests in the best way possible. The old school loyalty that we generated is because we knew our guests really, really well. We knew who they were. We knew their birthdays. We knew what their preferences were. We knew how they took their martini. We knew what kind of coffee they wanted in the morning. That's a really old school way to build loyalty. If we can start linking World of Hyatt and a systematic way of doing that, but back to the old school way of generating loyalty, that's really, really powerful. And I think that's where the future is.
You heard it here, folks. So thank you so much, Amar, for joining us today. It was fantastic, very interesting conversation about all things the Standard, luxury, lifestyle, the lore. All great. Thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank you for listening to the Skift Travel Podcast. Wherever you're listening, please make sure to subscribe. If you like what you're hearing, rate us 5 stars or leave us a positive review. It really helps get the word out about us, our podcast, and make sure that we can still continue to bring it to you free of charge every week.
If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell as well. That way you'll know every time we have a new episode.